Okay. Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Kevin Neal with the TWAIN Working Group. I'm the marketing chair here. I also have a dual role as CEO of P3ID Technologies. We're a digital transformation company integrating latest cloud technologies. So very happy to have Kevin Andresen with Qualcomm today. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Super excited. Yeah, like we were saying in the introduction, we got Kevin's book in, and technically Kevin is my middle name, so maybe I should have switched to my official first name. I never had really a choice. My parents just always called me Kevin. So growing up in school, the confusion, the embarrassment of raising your hand and saying, teacher, please call me Kevin instead of my official first name, which I would never acknowledge as Michael. So kind of an interesting fact about myself. So we're very excited, TWAIN Working Group, to have Kevin today on our presentation entitled Harmonizing Your Digital Transformation Strategy with TWAIN Direct PDFR and Qualcomm DirectOffice Conversion Viewing. We want this to be very interactive. So we do have presentation style, but we want to stop, answer any questions. Both Kevin and I are the style of we want to be interactive. So if there is questions, I will be moderating the chat. We'll pause the presentation and answer any questions, or if there's comments. We've got a lot of great experts on this call I could see here. And, we really want to be interactive. So as I said, I want to let Kevin introduce himself, but we've got you covered here. So I want to do a few minutes of just TWAIN Direct and PDFR. I don't know if we kind of have a hidden gem that we've created in a file format called PDF raster or PDFR. I want to talk about that for a few minutes, but I want to leave a majority of the time for Kevin's presentation. I've seen the deck and heard his pitch a little bit, and it's really got a lot of great information that isn't directly related to scanning. So, you might know the TWAIN Working Group as just creating a standard for scanning for application to device connectivity with the TWAIN Direct project, but we've also created a PDFR standard. So this is pretty cool. But let me pause a minute and just let Kevin introduce themselves, and then I'll do a little bit on PDFR. And then, like I said, I want to give a majority of the time to Kevin and his presentation. And then, of course, we'll leave time at the end also for Q&A or an open discussion. So, Kev, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Kevin Andresen. I work at Qualcomm, the printers and imaging segment, an office in Burlington, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. And in my deck, I'll give a little bit more of the history of why Qualcomm is here talking to you at all about documents. But I've been in the industry for quite a while, going through a long sequence of companies. I started off at Xerox out in Rochester, moved to Apple in the 90s, and then into the sequence of companies who's culminated in Qualcomm today.
Okay, beautiful. Thanks, Kev. Okay, so let me just start off by describing the TWAIN Direct ISV Showcase series. This is a series of webinars we're doing, similar, well, exactly like this one, but with different topics. And the whole idea is we want to build this thriving ecosystem of ISVs and software companies and integration companies. I see a lot of them on this particular call today, so we're excited. The purpose of the ISV Showcase is to really broaden TWAIN's appeal and integration with different ISV partners. It's an opportunity for them to showcase their technologies, but like Kevin will do today, it's more about general kind of concepts and how you can appeal to maybe an enterprise with the DirectOffice stuff that he'll be showing. So it's really a showcase for the ISVs themselves and less about, what the TWAIN Working Group's doing, but it shows the integration, collaboration of working together. So we want to give the audience an overall picture of a solution instead of just piece parts and technologies. And the intention is to sincerely grow the overall market. If the overall market grows, that's good for all of us that are participating in digital transformation. And it's, the TWAIN Working Group is a non-for-profit. We don't sell anything. Everything we do is free. So, there is no hidden agenda for us other than trying to get adoption for the free software, the open source software that we provide. So we really want to highlight software companies and grow the overall market. So that's our sincere intention. And then who participates? Oh, in this series over the past couple of months, we've had a blockchain company, we've had a biometric authentication company showing their technologies and how it can be integrated with TWAIN Direct. We've had an accounting company for cash flow management. And then we just did one with Xerox DocuShare on content management. So you can see we've got like a lot of different ISVs participating. And then today, Kevin's going to show you a different concept of also adding to TWAIN Direct and PDFR. So you can see there's a lot of participations in a way you could participate with the TWAIN working group. So that's what the ISV Showcase series is. If you are an ISV and you want to be part of this Solutions Showcase series, just send us an email and we could probably get you on the schedule. So we want to continue to do these kind of activities. We appreciate Qualcomm. So just a few comments on PDFR. And then, like I said, I want to leave the majority of the time for Kevin. But PDFR is for PDF raster. And this is a ISO standard PDF format that was created by the TWAIN working group and a couple other PDF organizations. And basically, it's a lightweight version of the PDFR format that's optimized to put on low-powered scanning devices and even mobile devices. So it is an ISO standard, and I'll give you some examples of this. And it's basically built for cloud and mobile first. It was created originally, the concept was in 2016. And again, like it was developed by the TWAIN working group. And basically, again, it was designed to have a royalty-free kind of PDF creation software that could be run on the chips of the scanners themselves. So it was designed for scanning, and that was our original intent because we create the standard TWAIN Direct for scanner acquisition. But it's an alternative to BMP and TIFF and JPEG, and now PDF is a standard and it's widely used and widely adopted. But in scanning, there's still a lot of TIFF and JPEG out there. So it's definitely an alternative to that. And it's got some advantages of being able to add encryption, digital signatures, add metadata to it. So it really gives you much more control. It's royalty free. So it's really a great option when you're looking at creating a file format. So this is the solution in a summary. So we have a specification written. It's a 24-page document that describes the standard and how to integrate it. And it's a subset of the PDF format. It's 100% compatible. So there's no question about, is it compatible with other versions of PDF software? Do I have to do changes? No, you don't have to do that. It's just a lightweight version. You could do compressed or uncompressed images. It's PDFA compatible, so that's important. And then again, adding encryption, digital signatures, having more control over the PDF creation is what PDF's about. Just a few benefits. It's easily and efficiently able to be used. Its simplicity. I think it's only a couple lines of code to actually put it in your application. Doesn't require the full processor. Again, it's designed for small, lightweight, designed to put on firmware, so you don't have to have huge libraries. So that's one of the key things is it's really small size, and it's easier to integrate than TIFF. So, and then again, like you can see on the 3 slides, we keep reinforcing security because we think that's an important thing to embed security with the image itself. So with that, I just wanted to introduce PDFR. You might not have known that, so that's kind of our hidden gem. So now, Kevin, I want to go on mute myself and then have you do your presentation. So let me go here. Let me stop share and let you share.
Go. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Sure can.
Excellent. So, as Kevin N described, the long title, but what I want to talk about is taking the ideas that TWAIN's about and TWAIN Direct, and how can we extend that digital transformation experience and bring other document types into the mix. So for the next 20, 30 minutes, depends how the demo goes, give you a little bit of background, then I'm going to introduce the idea of what I call a hybrid workflow, and I'll explain what that means in the context of TWAIN Direct. Then we're going to break that into a couple different sides. What happens between the document and a capture application? I call that upstream. And then what happens after the capture application has added some value, and what you do next, and that's downstream. Give a demonstration of Qualcomm's technology called DirectOffice, and then close it out with some discussions of how or why you might think about doing this one way or another, and the pros and cons of those. And if we do it right, there should be time for some Q&A. But if there's questions along the way, put something in chat or use the reaction to raise your hand, and we'll try and address it there. This is about me. I introduced before, but I think probably any of you signing up wondered, why Qualcomm? What does Qualcomm have to do with this topic? So if you know Qualcomm, you probably know us as the Snapdragon, the handset company, the 5G company. A very large, very powerful, lot of investment in R&D, a lot of patents, innovative enterprise. But again, not something that you tend to associate with the document world. And what happened is Qualcomm, at this point about 7 or 8 years ago, acquired a company called CSR. CSR had acquired a company called Zoran. Zoran acquired a company called Oak. Oak acquired a company, and then you start to get back into the names that scanning people know and remember. Oak acquired a company called Xionyx back around the 2000s, and Xionyx had acquired a company before that called the division Phoenix Page division of Phoenix Technologies, and all that has become Qualcomm's printers and imaging business after all these years, many of the same people, and in that time, starting on the print side, we are the #1 PostScript PDF provider by unit volume. We're the #1 merchant PCL provider. And I qualify that saying merchant because HP defined PCL. So of course they have their own PCL and most of their printers, but I can say some of their printers include some of our PCL. And then we're the #1 embedded Office format provider. And that was taking the idea of direct printing of something like PDF and extending it. Can we print Office files without a PC, without a driver, and turn that into hard copy? And that's the technology that comes into play, what we're going to talk about today. So let's start and look at the overall workflow. So this is TWAIN Direct, as you guys are familiar with. You start with a scanner, you bring hard copy in, and through TWAIN Direct, you're doing this through the cloud, you're making it interface agnostic into a capture application. The ISVs here are going to add some kind of value. So we've brought it into the digital domain. Now we're going to do something important with it. And that could include some OCR, it can include extracting information. It might simply be enough to take it out of paper and onto a screen, whether that's desktop, mobile, or it could be to manipulate it in a way that you're going to carry in the digital domain and do further processing. So this would be the TWAIN Direct workflow. And it's fully designed, as is the scanner world. How do we get hard copy in? This unstructured, image only. How can we start to do something more intelligent with it? But when you're talking about documents, you have to think about, where did the documents come from? So now I want to talk about Microsoft Office. Office, far and away, the #1 productivity application in the world. And this is almost a 10-year-old statistic, but 500 billion Office documents created each year, billion users. So what kind of documents? It's not just term papers. It's not just to-do lists. There's a lot of business content being created day in, day out. And so on this page, I've got some examples where you can think about, information that is unstructured. There's no, formal structure to Office documents, but contains a lot of content which is relevant to the work that Capture ISVs do. And Kevin, I think, can we just sort of get a sense from the folks out there who works with Office documents with or without the context of what happens in scanning?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you asked, Kevin. Just so happens we have a poll here. So if we can ask the participants to, we'll take a pause here. If we can ask you to kindly fill out the poll so we can get some data here. And basically, well, what we are asking, do you use, resell, or integrate Microsoft 365? Okay, we see some responses coming in here. Cool. Appreciate it. Let's give it a few more seconds. Also, if there's any questions or comments, again, you can raise your hand or you can put them in the chat. Okay, we get some good feedback here. Okay, we got a full response, Kev. So appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate to everybody that did that. We'll end this poll.
Okay. And I'm guessing the answer is okay. So we've got a majority of folks who are using this. Excellent. So let's take a look at that TWAIN Direct workflow. And this is what I call the hybrid workflow. What would happen if we could turn those Office documents and effectively scan them from the point of view of the Capture application? So I'm going to take a look at the left side of this picture, and this is what I call upstream. So in the standard hard copy scanner world, that's coming from a device and into the Capture app. What can we do to unify, harmonize, and have the Office documents play the same way? Well, the key, as Kevin N told us before, is PDFR. You've got this portable, widely used, easily processed format that you can do, some important things like encryption, like signatures, like metadata. So wouldn't it be great if we could take those Office files, also turn them into PDF? And so your Capture app has a wider domain of the documents that it can deal with and add its value. So the first obvious solution is you don't ever have to go through a gratuitous, let me print this just so I can scan it so I can get it into this workflow. But the value that's being added at the Capture side, you're taking this unstructured data that's on paper, you're bringing it into the digital realm. And what we're going to talk about today is, can you add that same intelligent processing to those billions of unstructured Office documents? And the key here, we think, is that whether it's PDFR or a PDF conversion that maintains the digital information, that can be the common factor for ISVs providing that Capture application. Now, another thing to think about, though, is something that scanners have done for years that's pretty cool and pretty important, and that's adding watermarks. So I want to talk a little bit about what would happen if you could bring digital watermarks into those Office files. And there's a lot of contextual information that we have that it would be helpful for a number of reasons if you could get that onto the paper. So there's the who's looking at it. There's what is it, so you can give further annotation. Where is it being looked at? IP address. When is it being looked at? All of this, you think of the typical watermark security, just saying confidential, great. But can you say something more? Can you say who copied this? And it brings a level of traceability. So people are always concerned, once a document is out of my physical control, what's going to happen to it? And one of the things you want to do, particularly if it's confidential, is be able to find out if it did get away, at least I can trace it back and find out and punish who did it. Another one, which I'll talk about and show a little bit later, are Bates numbers, Bates stamps. Again, going back to when this was a physical thing that was applied at the scan time, but is very important in certain use cases, being able to serialize and catalog the documents as they come in. Well, this can happen in the scanner or through that TWAIN Direct workflow, can happen in the Capture app. But wouldn't it be cool if you could apply that, because that's not a concept that the digital office file knows about, if you could apply that. So that's what we're thinking about when we talk about the upstream use case. And any questions, any gotchas with that? Okay. So now let's look at the right side of this picture. We start with the Capture app, and it's taken the hard copy and done some transformation, some processing. And maybe that's enough. Maybe all you want to do now is be able to view it remotely. You've taken these cabinets or these boxes full of paper, and you've turned into something that can be watched on a screen. Or you've done that first step. You've taken something out of the paper realm, maybe applied some OCR so that now you understand the text, and you want to hand that off. I want to extract now and act on what the content contains, put some structure onto that unstructured data. Now, if you're looking to view, depending on where and how your viewer works, turning it into a PDF or keeping it as that PDFR might be enough. Maybe you want to do this inside a more integrated application, in which case you would turn it into an image. And if you want to do that more intelligent post-processing, extract and act on the data that's contained or represent that structure, you probably want to turn it into something a little more searchable. Now, on this side of the equation, it's not necessary to go through the Capture app to get to this. So once again, we have our Office files available to the same workflow. And to view, let's turn those Office files into a PDF or a read-only image. And for further processing, let's make sure that that's a searchable PDF. And what would you do with that? For the viewer side, it could be, literally viewing, that you're going through legal review and you want somebody in another location to be able to scroll through, scan through, annotate what the content contains. If you think about RPA, there's the notion of human in the loop. You want to do some verification. Let's spot check and make sure the automation told me that this document was an invoice. Let me look at it and make sure it's an invoice. Or I trust that it can recognize invoices. It told me the total was $15,130. Let me look and make sure that that's scanned correctly and that was the right answer. The PDF processing, once again, the searchable text, any kind of extraction you can do. But there's also something cool. There's metadata, the author, the time created, different information that is available on the digital document. It would be good if you could maintain that and carry it through on the PDF side. Once again, being able to apply encryption, being able to apply signatures. There's a lot of value add if you're keeping this PDF workflow, and your products, the ISVs in the TWAIN Direct space, can broaden the reach of where your value add to a wider set of documents. It's hard copy plus. So let me talk about how Qualcomm got into this, the DirectOffice product. What is it? So we developed originally for printers, now bringing into the enterprise software world, piece of technology that consumes Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and turns it into read-only PDF or image PNG files. One of the reasons we did this, and I'll talk about it again later, is to improve information governance. Live Office files can be dangerous in any number of ways. So if you can turn that into something read-only, can't be modified, if you can turn it into something that doesn't expose you to malware or ransomware when you open it, if you can add those watermarks like we talked about, you're improving the governance of the documents. What you may or may not know is that Office, for as ubiquitous as it is a pretty lousy page description format. We come from the print world, PostScript PDF. What you see is what you get is based on defining the layout of what's supposed to be on the page and exactly where. Word, PowerPoint, Excel don't work that way. If you change the content, then other items flow around, and that can change the pagination. It can change the layout. I'm sure, there's lots of memes of, nudging an image by 1 pixel and the whole document falls apart. And something again, Kevin mentioned, where taking it off the desktop and onto mobile, into the cloud, into the browser, you want a common experience across platforms. And again, once you get away from Word or Office or PowerPoint or Excel on the desktop, it's the Wild West. Even Microsoft behaves differently when you look in the web view as you do in the desktop application. So we're looking for the value of being consistent across platforms and across devices. So what I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to show you is this notion of taking a TWAIN or a hard copy centric workflow, broadening it to add the raw Office files, and doing it in a way that's consistent no matter where you place it. I'm going to show you one little Easter egg on this slide. Each of those images, this little PowerPoint image of Contoso sales strategy, the one on the left is what it looks like in Microsoft PowerPoint. The one in the middle, I think, is Apple, and the one on the right is an open source. So you can see, just because you're all looking at the same document, how you render it, how you convert it, and what the end user ultimately sees depends a lot. So I'm going to switch gears here. I'm going to turn myself off so you don't see me looking to the side. I'm going to try at least. There we go. And hopefully y'all can still see my screen. I'm gonna hide this.
We're seeing the demo slide still.
Yep, that's what I'm working my way over. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Here we go.
Hey, Kev, there's one question that comes in.
Yeah,
I just want to confirm, as everything goes browser based,
Yep.
Is this a good way for compliance and regulation? And I think you just mentioned it, but maybe you can confirm.
Correct. So I actually have a slide coming up, but absolutely, because what you ideally want is one source of truth, which is the source document living in a controlled environment. And yet for productivity, you want a user to be able to access what's in that document, but not the document itself. And so, a really great way to handle compliance is to make sure that that source of truth is in one place and everybody else can only view it on the fly, which is absolutely a different downstream case than where you want that PDF and you want to do something based on the PDF itself. But I'll show you all that right now. So what I've got here is a 2-page Microsoft Word document. And what we're going to do is first off, using the Qualcomm DirectOffice viewer, I'm going to turn this into a PDF that looks the same. So I'm going to upload that to our conversion. And I am going to, what did I do here? There we go. Make that a little bit bigger so we can see. And you'll see we have a 2-page document that looks like the one that came in. We can handle different kinds of graphs. You can see a little bit of transparency. If you look really close, you'll see that the fonts don't match exactly, but they all take up the same spacing, the same margins as the original document, so that all of the images end up where you want them to be. All of the pagination and the page breaks are the same as the original. Now, if we wanted to do that and show a watermark, I'm going to cheat here, and now I'm going to drill down a little bit and show the REST API. If anybody's familiar, this is a Swagger interface. So now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to kind of see what's under the hood. So I'm going to choose that same file. Going to upload that. And that's going to give me back a document ID. I'm going to take that document ID to our process endpoint. Going to execute that. And this time, I'm going to include a watermark that's going to model bait stamping. So here we go. That's going to give me back a job ID. And then finally, I'm going to go to our status endpoint. I'm going to enter that job ID. That's going to give me a bunch of output, one of which is the source of that PDF file. And if I put that in, we take a look at it here in the browser. And once again, we have that PDF conversion, but now you see that I've added a serialized date stamp. So those upstream, how do we get a digital document, turn it into a PDF? How do we get, how do we add watermarks? This can all be done through DirectOffice. Then if we talk about the downstream use cases, let's come back here. So one of the things that we talked about was using this as a viewer. And one of the things that we can do because of our printer background is we have a fully fledged PDF renderer of our own. So I've got a couple image files here in PDFR that were scanned by Kevin's company's product. And so now we turn those into an image, and just as it comes up, let me give you the side-by-side here, just so we know we're talking about the same thing. So a single viewer can render the PDFR that's coming from a TWAIN Direct workflow, or those Office files, as I just showed you. Then the last piece that I want to talk about is, let's go back to that the PDF demo that we converted using the Swagger. Let's take a look at it as a PDF. So I'm going to download that. And then I'm going to open that up. Real quickly. Now we're going to look at this as a pure PDF file. And one of the great advantages of keeping this in the digital domain is we don't have to do anything particularly magic in terms of OCR. If we want a searchable PDF, we've kept what was in the original content. You don't have to guess. You don't need another layer. It was in the original content. It's in the future content. If this was a document with a table of contents and chapters and section headings, we could convert those into bookmarks that would be visible in the PDF. And you can see them right here. So each of the sections these are all turned into bookmarks. The author, the creation date, the title, the subject, anything that was in the Office files metadata can be carried over and become the PDF metadata. So there's a little bit of an advantage, but you're not losing the information that was there digitally. So that's a little bit of an example how you can bring things in to the PDF world on the front end and how you can operate on them from PDF going out through the conversion. There's any questions while I get the deck back up?
Just a comment, Kev, from the group. They say this is pretty incredible. Anybody that's dealt with keeping the fidelity of the original document and having a representation of it in the browser is not an easy thing to do. So
Correct.
This is pretty amazing to not lose any of the structure, the content, and give a good representation. So just kudos to what you guys have done.
Thank you. We spent, and there's some folks on the call here, we've spent years trying to get this right. So one question that probably is in your mind after why Qualcomm is why not Microsoft? Because Microsoft Office exists. You know, why not use it? So let's again break it into the upstream and the downstream use cases. So upstream, the simplest idea is let's use Save as PDF. And the first response is always, well, yes, but that means you need a Microsoft license. And that's real, but it's also a bit of a red herring because in almost every enterprise, every user is going to have a license. So, maybe not. But there are some real issues around the server. And I'll talk about that in just a second, that it's not really designed to be used as a service. Even if you could make that happen, you start to bind yourself. What am I going to do? Sorry, I want to put myself back on screen. My bad. I can only find, sorry about this. Here I am. So, if you're an Azure house, again, not really a problem. If your cloud is running on AWS, Google Cloud, to run Office becomes a much more complicated containerization strategy because you need that Windows environment. So it limits your choices and limits your flexibility where you want to host your solution. And getting to the fidelity point that Kevin raised and what I was showing on the sample document, if you don't have the exact fonts that were used to create the document, and if they're not embedded in the document, which is very rare, you're going to have a problem trying to make sure that all of the, all the layout is correct. So it's not enough to say, I'm just going to use Microsoft to do it. And you don't have to take my word for it or Qualcomm's word for it. This is what Microsoft says. This is straight from their support site. They don't want you and will not support automated Office. And we just learned from a partner today that there's licensing issues. So it seems like a possibility in small scale one-off applications, you might be able to make it work, but at wide scale, it's not really the way to go. And Kevin, since it sounded like most people had some experience dealing with Microsoft, maybe you can find out.
Yeah,
I think do they have any of these issues that I just described?
Let's do it. So yeah, let's launch another poll. And if everybody, again, can take the time to answer the question, there's multiple choice, so we don't want to limit it to this, and we've given kind of a wide ranging. And the question is, for those of you who use, resell, or integrate Microsoft 365, do you experience any of the following issues? And we have licensing, instability, portability, other, something else, or none. So let's give it a minute to get all responses. Everybody's chiming in. This is really good. We still got 50% responded. If you can get a few more, give it a few more seconds here. Again, it's multiple choice if there's more than one issue or no issues or some. We're just trying to get a feeling. So let's give it 10 more seconds. Then we'll close this. So still respondents coming in. Appreciate it. Kevin, great information. I think the stamping is cool for records managers. They want to keep document control. That's really cool. Also the watermarking of the confidential. When I hear watermarking, that's what I think of. But watermarking plus the stamping is really cool. So I think records managers will love this. Okay, so let's end this poll and then move on.
All right, thank you. So, having said that, downstream seems like a no-brainer. I mean, if you're talking about viewing on the desktop, well, then that's absolutely the place to have Microsoft Office, right? And it turns out not really. I mentioned earlier, I'm going to tell you again in a second, information governance on Microsoft Office documents is an absolute nightmare. You have a productivity issue. If you've got people in your application or in your workflow, and the magic is you've brought hard copy in, or now you can bring Office files in, you want to keep them there. If they have to bounce out of your solution in order to use something else as a viewer, and you probably don't even think about this, but think about, even today, if I sent you an image file, if I sent you a PDF file, you're going to open it in a browser. If I send you a Word file, the browser is not going to do it. So you have to move out of one workflow into another. On the desktop, once again, no big deal. Everyone's got Office. But again, in the cloud, in the browser, in mobile, now you can't count on Office being there. So for example, if you want to look at an Office document on an Apple device, on an iPhone, Apple provides a built-in viewer called Quick Look, but it does a lousy job in fidelity. You go to Android and they don't provide a standard viewer. So now you're at the mercy of whoever the handset provider or tablet provider is, and you could get you might get nothing. There might be nothing there and you can't view at all. I talked about font substitution. The same problem is going to happen on the downstream viewer side. And as Kevin just mentioned, some of the things that we're bringing to the table, like watermarks or like being able to view Office and PDF at the same time, you're not going to get that from Microsoft on the downstream side. Let me go a little deeper into that information governance point. So you remember earlier we looked at the long list of what kind of documents could be created in Office, could be brought into these workflows. And when you think of information governance, there's, we think about confidential, but another one which has really come to fore in the past few years, and somebody mentioned, Neal Fisher as an old friend of all of us. Neal was really strong on bringing this to our attention. When you get into privacy, personally identifiable information, there are regulations all over the place with stiff fines behind them if you're not taking care of this information. It's not enough for it to be confidential. It could be personal. And so we talk about it as being sensitive. So there's all of these regulations. There's all of these different kinds of confidential or sensitive information you want to protect. Well, what happens when you use Office as your viewer? You need a local copy. When you download it from the centralized repository, you get digital duplicates. If you don't manage those, if you don't control those, now you're at risk of those privacy violations. If you let somebody have access to the original file, they could edit it. They could change it. They could send it outside. They could send it to the competition. Just the act of opening it, if it came from the outside, it could contain malware. With technology like DirectOffice, you avoid all of that. You only get a read-only copy. You never get access to the original. We don't trigger any of the Office malware because we're not Office. And you don't have to worry about the distribution to the extent that you have the screenshot problem, the photo capture problem. Watermarks can give you the traceability. And as I mentioned, with productivity, you stay in one place and you have control over what your user sees. And that's simply not the case with Microsoft Office today. You can't promise that the same version of Office is going to be everywhere where your users look at the document. So how does Qualcomm do this with DirectOffice? What we've built is a common conversion engine built on a set of resources, fonts, substitution fonts, etc., with a common API and then different language bindings. So you have Java, you have Objective-C, you have C++. In beta, we have C# and .NET. And that allows you to run the same conversion on any of these platforms. Anybody's Java VM, Android, iOS, Windows, Linux, you name it, you're going to see the same conversion. So the same file in is going to give you the same file out. Now, what does that look like in implementation? If you wanted to deploy this inside your solution, basically as a library, then the API is a direct call through one of those languages. And we ask you, give us the file, give us the parameters like I showed you in before, how do you configure the watermark, for example, or do you want PDF out, PNG out? We'll run it through DirectOffice SDK and give you back the file that you asked for. If in a cloud world, you want to do this as a web service, then we have a REST API, and that's what I was showing you with the Swagger during the demo, but it's the same general interface. Now, whether you implement that as a full service or as a microservice, in the cloud world, when you get into privacy, you have issues of residency. Documents in Europe ought to stay in Europe. Documents in California ought to stay in California. So, a microservice where you're running this and you can make sure this conversion happens at the same place where you process your documents, that's the way to go. So to wrap it up, we're excited, talking with Kevin, talking with the team. What you guys are doing with TWAIN Direct is awesome because you're taking hard copy, you're doing digital transformation, you're bringing it in to do, important things. We're suggesting you can take all of your value add and extend it to bring in these Office files, which although they're digital, they are unstructured. And then you can use a technology like DirectOffice, either in that conversion on the capture side or in what you do with it downstream. So our proposal for the developers here, the ISV community, is to take all of the things you do today and apply it to a much broader set of documents and a larger opportunity space. And that's what I had to say.
All right. Thanks, Kev. Really awesome and daring to actually show the demo and then actually show the Swagger and show how the sausage is made. That's really daring of you, but it gives you an example of setting up a web service and then actually how you could do something pretty easy as a programmer. So that's really awesome. So there is a question here. It looks like there's excitement about this. The question from the audience is, what would we have to do to integrate DirectOffice into our product?
So I glossed over it in those last couple slides, but we'll put up, let's see, I think you have in the wrap up, you can go to directoffice.qualcomm.com, and that has the public facing version of the demo that I just showed, as well as pointers to some resources of how to get in touch with us, or you can reach me directly. But basically, we have a evaluation license that allows you to play with it. And then there's a quick architectural question Do you want to call this as a library? Do you want to go through it as an API? And from there, it's pretty straightforward. We've had people in literally a matter of a day or two bring up proofs of concept, because at the end of the day, it's bytes and parameters in. Here's the file, and here's what I want you to do with it, and we give you a file back. The hard work is on the inside, and we've worked hard to make that as portable as possible.
Oh, and then there's a follow-up here. So then they also ask, how long does it take to typically integrate DirectOffice?
So the proof of concept, as I said, is days. It depends on, we've got another partner we were just talking to before this call, and they're a couple of weeks away. It's it's a matter of a month's time to figure out what's the right direction. We've got a strong team of engineers who have familiarity with all the different ways people have tried to deploy this. Our story is really about flexibility. We focus on the part we do well, and then if you took a close look when I plugged in that piece of watermark code, it's a insanely complex parser with probably a dozen different attributes. That's the hard work on our side. We figured it's going to take one of our customers, a day or two to figure out how to make it look the way they want to. And then you never think about it again because now it's programmatic.
And that's something personal. So we were talking about in the introduction about how difficult it used to be to configure a scanning system. You get a proprietary card, proprietary cable, IRQ switches, and USB, or not even USB, but microchannel ISA conflicts. So what you guys have done with DirectOffice is do all the dirty work to basically make this toolkit super easy to deploy and use and utilize in different environments where you don't have to worry about the nitty gritty, right? And to me, it's just like now scanners, like you just plug it in and it works almost kind of thing. And it feels like that's the same thing with DirectOffice. Just plug it in and it works. And all those worrying about languages or creating a microservice or spinning up a web service API. You guys have done that. So it's just kind of easy to get started and integrate it pretty quickly.
In a perfect world, it's simply taking what you've done and spinning it up in your environment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Kevin. I'm gonna wrap up here now. I'm having an issue with PowerPoint here, rendering. So let me.
You want to send it to the website?
Yeah, we should do that.
We'll do it as a
let's
demo.
see here. I'm trying to just do it like, well, I'm at the end of the show here, so let me go back. Stop this. Might just have to do it verbally. What's wrong with the computer? Okay, so let's just do this verbally. So I want to thank you, Kevin, for this presentation. The thing I did want to show is that we had TWAIN Direct Developers Day last November in Safety Harbor, Florida. It was a great success. So TWAIN Direct Developers Day is a dual track. And it's going to be a business track roundtable, and then also a hands-on with TWAIN Direct and PDFR. And we could even offer the Qualcomm toolkit to where you come into Safety Harbor. You'll come in, it's on November 7th and 8th. So if you want to attend in person, we highly encourage that. You will come in the night of the 7th. We'll have a reception that evening. And then on the 8th, we start in the morning. We'll have a full day session where we'll have dual track. Like I said, there will be developers track where we'll give you a hosted TWAIN Direct API web service. So it will give you all the tools to create a web scanning application, and it will give you third-party tools that you can actually create an application in one day. And all the developers that came last November, they left with a functional application. It was really incredible to get this done so quickly. And we'll have like TWAIN Direct experts, PDFR experts. So you can ask questions, they can work with you on your code. And it was really awesome on the hands-on. But also we did a business roundtable. So we picked about 6 topics. We'll talk with each topic for about a half an hour. And it was standing room only. There was a lot of really valuable discussions and people shared experiences. So you get both experiences, and then that evening we'll have another reception if you decide to stay that night. So it's a great experience. It's a great way to get a lot of work done quickly. So we're going to do that on November 7th and 8th in Safety Harbor. We're looking for sponsorships. We're also offering opportunities to sponsor lunches, dinners, receptions. You could buy developers tickets only. You could buy roundtable tickets. If you do decide to sponsor TWAIN Direct Developers Day, you also get 6 months of access to the TWAIN working group meetings. So these are great meetings. If you're doing anything related with this stuff, there you go. Thanks, Kev. Save the day. So this is what I was talking about. It was a great time last time. It was a lot of fun. Looking for sponsorships. It's a great place, great resort. Awesome. The hurricane was actually coming in last time, so we had to get out of Dodge pretty quick, but it's a great resort. So if you want to attend that, contact Erin Dempsey. Her emails are erin.dempsey@twain.org. So with that, Kev, maybe you can go to the next slide and here's all the contact. These slides will be sent to everybody that's registered for this. There will be a recording, so we'll also send you the link. So with that, I want to save 1 minute of the day. Say, Kev, thank you so much. Appreciate it. This was all great information for people's careers, for their jobs, for their self-learning, how to make their companies better. And we really appreciate you, your and the rest of the Qualcomm team's enthusiastic support of TWAIN Working Group and TWAIN Direct.
I think there's some good opportunities for folks to work together. And yeah, what we try to do today is just open people's minds to bigger opportunities. So I hope we were able to do that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thanks everybody for attending. With that, if there's any more questions, we'll go, but we're right at the hour. So we want to be respectful of time, and thank everybody. And Kev, thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.